combining different forces, different ideologies, and amalgamating into one and presenting them under one flag. That's not unity. So the claim of all religions, as I understand, when they speak of a golden age, when man will become united under one flag, only means that a movement will be launched, a divine movement in the latter days, whereby gradually, by changing our ideologies, by changing of thoughts and attitudes, a new entity would begin to arise and gather force and gather mass until it becomes largest, and it will not be based on any racial or geographical philosophy. It will be based entirely on universal philosophy. So people from all over the world would come and join and feel at one with each other, sharing the same equality. That is how we feel that we, inshallah, are going to bring about the unity of man under the flag of Islam as we understand that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now invite Mr. Javed Tanveer from High Wycombe, please.
Hi, welcome.
High Wycombe.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Sir,
Originally, if you are from the Punjab?
yes, from Lahore.
Lahore?
Yes.
Right. From walled city or from the outer Lahore?
In Kent, cantonment.
So that means you must have migrated from East Punjab and settled there. Could have been, I mean, not must.
No, sir.
No? You're originally Lahori
I'm originally.
or from some other district?
No, I belong to NWFP.
NWFP?
Yes.
Oh, so that's what I understand. The Lahoris, true Lahoris are those who are born in the walled city.
Yeah.
And their style is very specific and
Typical.
recognizable. Others are either immigrants or coming from different provinces and places. Right,
Yes.
okay. Thank you. Please.
Sir, my question relates to the same subject as discussed earlier about the ascension of Jesus Christ, how real it is.
The features or similarities, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
How we can present some similarities between the Messiah we believe in as the re-advent of Jesus and the first Jesus whose image he claims to be. Correct?
Yes.
Right. So it's a long list. All of you have to be patient with me, but I won't exhaust it. I'll just present to you a few cases by way of demonstration. You are a Muslim, of course. You should also bear in mind that the Holy Quran speaks of a similarity between Moses and Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam as well. Does it not? And so there is a prophecy of Hazrat Moses himself in Deuteronomy chapter 22, isn't it? 18, chapter 18, verse 18. Chapter 18, verse 18. That a prophet would be raised from among your brethren, like unto you. That's these similar words. So what are the similarities between Moses and Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam? First of all, that question has to be answered. Second, Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam was prophesied in the New Testament as well by Jesus Christ. And there his description is different from that of Moses. So that means a Messiah was also to be born in Islam. And that is why Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam repeatedly prophesied that in my ummah also, in the latter days, in the end days, a Messiah will be born. So relating both these issues, you will come to a better understanding of similarities. The similarity between Moses and Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam, first of all, was that both brought a new law and a fiery law, a sort of with glory and majesty. And that law got enforced with complete success within their lifetimes. And they did not leave the world until they had seen the law established and enforced. Secondly, this requires a rapid movement which was also related with the use of force and sword whenever sword was raised against them. Both Moses was permitted and Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and peace be upon Moses as well. So this is another similarity which we see. And after that, the enforcement of law takes place many centuries. The real, in not only enforcement of law, talking from the political point of view, I don't mean that, but sinking of the law into the people and their habits takes a very long time. And in the first beginning of the Islamic movement, it began to spread not by sword, as people believe, but by the deliverance of message and the deliverance of the Quranic values as practiced by the Muslims of the time. This is important for me to emphasize because there are many non-Muslims present here who misunderstand the spread of Islam to have depended upon the use of sword. You see, the largest population of the Muslims are found in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in 4 provinces of China. And the history tells us that not a single battle was fought for the sake of Islam in all these countries. Yet it spread. And it spread faster and wider. Where the Muslims ruled for many centuries continuously in India, the progress of Islam was much slower, and with obstruction here and there, it spread, but it remained to be a minority for the last 1,000 or more years. So that is what should be kept in mind. So the first message was given a push off with a great impetus and a great force until it reached its climax in having delivered the message of Islam and having established it to all the important known countries of the world of that time, except a portion which is called the West. There it only stuck at the walls and knocked at the walls and made an entry and quickly withdrew, but didn't leave a lasting impression on the people except for a few exceptions like Bosnia and things. Now I come to the period which had to follow. During this course, politics began to be intermingled with Islamic ideology when the spread of Islam also resulted in Muslim states. They came to be born. And whenever state interplays with religious hierarchy, havoc is played both to the politics and to religion. That is exactly what happened during the medieval centuries. And they distorted the image of Islam to that of a national movement, of a racial movement, of a territorial movement. So the term holy war or jihad came to be misunderstood as a movement of subjugation of all the people of the world, politically and ideologically, with the help of your thumb on the throats. Now how they understand it to have happened, I can't understand. It's impossible for the soul to change the ideas, beliefs. They can sever the heads from the body, but they cannot change a single belief of the head of the mind within the head. They can create reactions, of course. Subjugation only takes place when something within the people, such people who are coerced, something of life and honor within them have already died. When they are neither fit as Christians or as a Muslim,